Hello there, this is Rom Wills coming back at you with yet another podcast. Surround yourself with winners. You know, that's one of the earliest lessons I learned in life. One of the earliest lessons. And this is one of those ones, it got something to do with women, but just something to do with life too. And usually, you know me, on this channel, we basically about man gets woman, but, ultimately it's about life anyway. But this was the lesson. I learned it interestingly, right? Now, I'm an athlete and stuff, played sports, but basketball wasn't my number one sport. But I would still, play pickup and all of that. And I found something interesting. Whenever I go to a basketball court, I was never the last person chosen, even though that's not my sport. That was interesting. I mean, I was never the last person, but it would be always the winners and stuff who would choose me, the guys who were used to winning. They never looked at me like, oh, he's going to pull us down, right? And I actually learned something. Now, they weren't trying to teach me how to be a winner. My main thing was it'd be like gunners and stuff and shooters choosing me. They knew I ain't have problems playing rebound and playing defense and passing them the ball. So in fact, one dude chose me and said, y'all ain't getting no rebounds now. Because Rom could get up, right? Then I'll be happy I get on my tippy toes now. Actually, I could probably jump higher, but I don't mess with my knees. But I digress. But one of the things I learned early just playing pickup is always be associated with winners. And indeed, just playing sports, like in my high school, Archbishop Carroll, and this back in the 80s. I know somebody's familiar with it now. Like, yeah, I used to win, but they used to dominate. So it was dominating football and very competitive in other sports as well. Right? And the whole thing was it was a whole winning mindset that, I just took with me in life. Right? And that's with anything. Surround yourself with people who are at least trying to win. And this could be, it could be with the women. Like one thing I've told several men, if you can, surround yourself with that select guy, alpha showpiece, Mr. Goodbar, Chad or Tyrone, whatever term you want to shoot, Pookie and Ray Ray if you don't think they're going to rob you. Surround yourself with them when you dealing with women. Sit back and listen to them. Be around that mindset because, see, here's the thing with them. When they speak about women, they speaking in positive terms because they talking about what the women doing with them and how they hooked up with a particular woman or who they checking out. And even in situations where they ain't get the woman, they'll laugh about it because they got, one reject them, 5 other women are interested. So they'll laugh about it. They basically got a general winning attitude towards women. Even in situations where the woman, like I said, she might did something bad, they'd like, okay, whatever, But that's a winning attitude. You get a lot of guys when it's dealing with women, they surround themselves with other losers. And I've seen this beyond YouTube. You get a bunch of guys like I remember one time, this was way back, this before, the big thing on the internet was like those bulletin boards and stuff, So, I remember I went to pick up this woman, a mutual friend had set us up, right? Picked her up at her place. She was living at her parents' house, right? And her brother and some other guys were there, and all they were doing was complaining about women. That's all they were doing. They were just sitting there complaining about women when I picked her up. And I just shook my head because they had this negative attitude, but they were just promoting it. See, when you're around, understand something. When you're around somebody, you pick up their energy. I believe it was the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And somebody please correct me if I'm wrong with this quote. Or if I'm not, I'm going to paraphrase it, right? And the author was Robert Kiyosaki. He said, you take on the traits of the 5 people you hang around, like your 5 friends, right? I'm going to tell you what. I don't have a lot of people I associate with or talk to. I don't. Because my thing is, I'm trying to make money, so look, let's just break it down to street terms. Rom's a hustler. And I don't mean a bad thing, because I knew this guy who owned, I've mentioned this guy before, who owned several buffalo wing restaurants, and he said that's his hustle. He said, and Rom, he looked at me, he said, Rom, your hustle is selling books. So I prefer to be around people constantly getting ideas. If you look at my inner circle, they all on that hustle. They all on that hustle. Or if they not on that hustle, like as the circle expands, they at least got steady jobs making money. And they're in important positions, even if they just in careers, right? But that keeps me going. Now imagine if I was around people who were making minimum wage, were broke half the time, couldn't work. Well, you probably wouldn't be hearing this podcast, right? So that's the thing. That's the thing. Whatever you want to do in life, find the group of people who doing it. You know, somebody else said, it was a science fiction writer. I don't know if he wants his name called on here, but he's written some stuff. He's a brother. And he said, look, you go in a room, you don't want to be the smartest person in the room. And I knew what he meant. And it wasn't from a place of low self-esteem. It was just like, you can learn something. See, when you surround yourself with winners, that energy changes. That energy changes. Because indeed, I've been paying attention to like professional sports since I was young. And sometimes I can just look at how people walking, and if I'm like playing in some leagues and everything, how people talking and know how much they're going to win. I'll give you another example of it, right? Give you another example. I remember back in the early 90s, I played in this church football league, right? And I played for two different teams. Like I played the first team I played for played in 2 championships. Didn't win, unfortunately, but still in those 4 years, we played in 2 championships, and one championship went overtime. The other one was, the other team just, they were playing, God had them that day. I put it like that. Even then, it was still tight. But overall, I'll say the overall winning percentage for the team I played for was probably really 90% of the games. 90% of the games played, right? So rarely lost, and, very good in the playoffs. At least with the playoffs, in 4 years, at least got to the Final Four, right? But, all right, so played, but then that team eventually disbanded because the quarterback for that team was also a minister. Right, so he moved up, and so he couldn't really give that time. The games were on Saturdays, but it got to the point he couldn't give that time and everything. So, and the team disbanded, right? Just for some other things. People were doing different things. So I played in that church league for another team like the next year, and this team wasn't a championship team. This team was one of the worst teams in the league. I forgot how I got hooked up with them because I actually could have played for one of the teams that had beaten us in the championship. They would have welcomed me. But, yeah, I forgot how I got there. But this team was one of the worst. And I noticed the difference between the two teams, the one that was, at least could make it to the championship and play in the championship and play tough, they just had a winning attitude. In fact, I remember, like I mentioned, the quarterback of the team was a minister too. And I remember there was a period he had hurt his back, so he couldn't really play. But he just kept working out and everything, coming to the games, getting into it, and just watching his attitude towards it, it affected the whole team. But then when I was on this other team, their whole attitude was it was blah. I remember we played this one team, we were up 24-0 at halftime. 24-0 at halftime. But the attitude on the team wasn't to go out and run up that score. At halftime, they were like, oh, they could come back, and all of that. And they weren't saying it like, just to keep playing hard. They were like, it was almost like, oh, we still going to lose anyway. Another team, and the other team we played, they had a winning attitude because at halftime, they were just like, we'll win this game. They were real calm. That's the attitude, but you got to surround yourself with it. I only played 1 year on that team, though, right? I played in some other leagues. We actually got some championships, but but every time I've noticed that just playing sports, you wanted to be with the winners. So that's in life, if you want to be getting to find women, try to surround yourself with guys who are actually getting women. If you want to make money, be on that hustle, make that money, surround yourself with guys on the same thing. Whatever it is, positive. I don't care what it is. You could be around a bunch of guys who, home builders or something. You want to hook up with the guys actually making money from it, actually doing well with it, whatever. If you want a job, you want to be around a crew on the job who they actually going to work hard, get that work ethic. Always surround yourself with winners, And if you're in a situation where you notice they not winners, they don't have that attitude, hey, you might have to just roll out. You might have to roll out. And even while you dealing with them, if it takes time, because things take time to roll out from, just still you had a winning attitude. You might be the leader one day. You might be the leader. So anyway, that's all I got. Surround yourself with winners, y'all. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.